Talking Putting. Here we are from the corporate attic, Charlotte, North Carolina, along with Liberty Bill for the Liberty Bill Studios. And we're welcoming today our special guest, Tyler Sully Sullivan, a 2006 graduate from Vermont, up there, and lives in Williston, Vermont.
Somewhere up here, yep.
Yeah, somewhere up there in the great north. And he's founder of a couple companies. One's a golf club company, so I'm excited about talking about that, BombTech. And then he's got another one that's e-commerce, helps you promote your products online and with email and that. We'll let Sully get into that. But just to start out, Sully, well, tell us a little bit about the company and what you're doing and how you got into all this.
Oh man, yeah, it's a long story. Accidental entrepreneur. I started, in 2011, BombTech. I was, a golfer. I was trying to do the home run derby of golf, World Long Drive, and I was like the worst competitor. But during my attempts, I think my longest drive was 360 yards. I started breaking drivers, and it wasn't from my pure power, but it was from, I had a local club builder building these custom clubs. I just couldn't afford to be breaking clubs every week. So I had like 40 drivers in my bag, and I just started assembling my own clubs. A buddy was like, "Hey, could you build me a golf club?" I was like, "Sure." He's like, "How much?" I'm like, "I don't know." Sold him one. Then I had the grand idea of making a website. This is 2011, where it wasn't as easy to make a website. Took me 6 months, and finally I was on my boat, which was not a yacht, and I got an email, and it was a sale. And that was like my first epiphany of like, well, I should do more of that, So from there, where I barely graduated, UVM, which took me 5 years, I called them up. I was talking to a frat brother of mine, and I was like, "Hey, I really want to design my own golf driver." He's like, "Well, you're not that smart." I'm like, "You're not wrong." So I worked with the college where I barely graduated. And I worked with 4 students in the faculty for about a year, and we designed our first driver. And I just went for it, cashed in my 401k. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just went for it, and it ended up being a great product. And now we've sold over 580,000 golf clubs. Wow. We'll do 15 million this year. And from that, 3 years ago, not to get too derailed, but I started another company with my first employee at BombTech, where we have a marketing agency, and that's now doing 7 figures. So it all came from my desire to hit the ball farther. 2 companies. So there's both were not intended to make money, but now they provide a life I never thought was possible. But it's not easy. Like, I was working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 years to figure it out. So it looks good now, but there was a lot of a lot that went into it to go from A to B.
Were your buddies or your fraternity brothers, were they engineers? I mean,
we were all in business, and we were just talking, like, this was after college, like 5 years out, and I was just talking to my buddies, and he's just like, "Well, you should call UVM." And so we worked with it's called Capstone. It's an engineering project they have every year. You can apply, and we were one that got chosen, and it was kind of I worked a lot closer with the students than anyone else. I was there like every week, and I just kind of documented my journey on Facebook early days. So like people were following the journey, seeing what we're doing. So when we actually went to sell it, they already knew who we were and what was going on. So that was, again, I just did that because I like to do it. So it's just like, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. What do you guys think? Or what color club do you want? Or what loft do you play?" And just engage them at kind of a scale as I went through the entire process.
Well, when you guys did that, 2 things. When you were talking about that project with the university, I tried to do something with North Carolina State through the engineering department, but you had to make a donation to the department.
They now ask you to pay a certain, it's not that much fee. At the time it was nothing, and we had designed, actually, I'm a big skier, so I designed a pair of skis, a fishing lure. Okay. I fish, I golf, I ski, so I designed skis, lures, and golf clubs. all stuff I just know. The skis I didn't think were good enough to bring to market. The fishing lure I didn't think was good enough. But the golf club, you know, that was the passion and was unique. You know what I mean? So it is a crapshoot because you're working with students. But I just spent so much time with them, you know, and we really worked together for a year, and it was pretty cool.
Where do you think you've had success in getting the word out, achieving nearly 600,000 clubs in sales?
Social media has just been the absolute. I mean, Facebook, we have like, I think 100 million video views or something now.
Wow.
I mean, we do pay a lot now, but back in the day when we first started, it was like Facebook and Instagram, just organic. You could post on there, and like I had 2,000 likes, and it was like a real 2,000. You know what I mean? So if I like said, "Hey guys, we got a new club dropping, or we're launching this, or whatever," 2,000 people would see it, and they were super hyper engaged. Now, you know, now we've got like 130,000 followers, but it's our email list is really now our asset, right? So like all of our customers, which is like 120,000 customers, and you know, all the people that bought is our real asset. You know what I mean? But social media is huge, and you know, you do things for, I call it constant pressure over time. You know, we've been doing this for almost 9 years, almost 10 years. This is our 9th year. So it's like, it's taken that long to build a brand because it's a super competitive market. You know,
Yeah. How would you differentiate your club versus the big ones? What really?
I mean, we're really more positioned for the regular golfer. So like we really, and again, I didn't start saying, hey, we want to make the best, most premium clubs for regular guys. I just started making stuff for myself, selfishly. And then guys felt like our customers felt like they could relate to me. So I just started putting out videos of myself, and they're like, oh, this is like a person and a brand. So there's a human element to it. And luckily they didn't hate me. So that's one piece of it that definitely is different, is our brand positioning, where, you know, we offer real performance. So like we'll go head to head with any product with performance, but it's really, we don't have retail, we don't pay pros. So the value you get is just way higher.
Yeah.
So we get like 3 wedges for $160 versus getting one for the same price. So, and we can do that because we sell direct. And then as we scaled up, it just became more and more obvious who the audience is. You know what I mean? And we just try to support them. You know what I mean? Like,
where do you do your well, I had a couple questions. I was going back to the long driving thing, thinking about what your shaft length is. You have 48-inch shafts. You know, so those guys, the clubs are crazy.
Yeah. So my long drive days does not reflect the clubs, right? So like that was just how I fell back in love with golf, right? It's like I was a golfer growing up, and then I came back in love with it because I went to a long drive tournament, but we don't sell anything like that, you know? So I was playing like a 48-inch 3X flex 4-degree driver, and it ruined my golf game.
Oh yeah,
absolutely ruined it. Ruined my back. Ruined my golf game. Now I play a 9-degree stiff. I swing. I hit it like I played the last 2 days. Shot 79 yesterday. Not too bad for me. Now I just hit in the fairway. You know, it's regular golf again. But yeah, so that was just how I got back in love with golf and learned a lot about, like, you know, shafts, heads, different manufacturing. Just like I went deep in the rabbit hole of just learning and being, I guess, curious. Like that's the real beginning of any business. I think it's just being curious, and I just kept on learning and asking, and just, I don't know.
I've been fascinated because I'm a nut too. I just took about 500 clubs to first tee that my wife made me clean out of the garage after 40 years. But anyway, what I was going to say was that the driver technology, you know, when they started jumping us to longer shafts, yeah, you got more distance, but you needed a home light sponsor to get out of wherever you hit it, you know, kind of like being Phil or something. And I've found myself creeping back towards, you know, when I was a kid in college, it was 43.5 inches.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so I'm okay with, I find myself either gripping down or going to a shorter shaft. But I hear who you're selling to too. But one more question about that. So where do you who makes your shafts for you and your heads? Where do you get them made?
Yeah, they're made overseas. I mean, like
Yeah,
most
cost.
brands, you can't. I've attempted to make clubs in the U.S. We made a made in Vermont putter, and I hate to say it, quality wasn't as good. Quality wasn't as good, and it was 10 times the price. So
10 times. Wow.
10 times, and we were making them in a local machine shop, CNC machining them, my wife and I, she was pregnant at the time, hand painting putter lines. So like, shit's crazy. So, really what we try to do is just design clubs that are forgiving and easy to hit. They happen to be long, but really we found that if they're easy to hit, you're going to have more fun, and your miss hits, which most people do, aren't going to be as damaging. And that's really our sweet spot. It's like we could make a really long, really stiff, driver. You could squeeze out a couple more yards, but we really, at the end of the day, say, is this easy to hit? And is it going to make your miss hits better? And every club is designed with that in mind.
Well, is it based on that? Did the guys back when you started come up with the 2 cavity on the base?
Yep. So
I like the fact that you don't have, the screwing, where you can redo, except for replacing a shaft, the
Yep.
rescrewing and moving the weights. Nobody does. Once you've hit it, you don't mess with that.
So that's the thing too. We really, when we first started, everything was custom, and it was just like, we had like 1,000 options. Like you could get, senior flex, extra stiff, this length, that length, different lofts, different grips. And I realized, like, if we're going to scale up, we number one, custom was causing more confusion than good. A lot of guys were ordering stuff like they would order a 44-inch extra stiff shaft, and then they would call me and be like, dude, I can't hit it. I'm like, well, it's a 2x4, and you cut it down shorter, so now it's even stiffer. So I can't even hit that in my glory days of 43 or 44-inch extra stiff shaft. It's so stiff and short. So I went away from that and just went to, our best performing, most common stuff, 10-5 regular flex, 9 stiff, and just making clubs that are simple, no adjustments, and just that are high performing. Like that, like just simplifying the game, because it can be overcomplicated and it doesn't need to be. And like my philosophy is like, I don't even hit balls before a round. I show up at my tee time and I just swing. Yeah. It's like a very different approach. And guys that may want to get custom fit, they're not our customer, and that's okay. We're not going after them. We do have some low handicap guys, and that like our products. But if you want to get custom fit, you want custom grinds, special shafts, different lengths, you're not a good fit, and that's okay. That's a small sliver of the market, and we just want guys to have more fun.
We've seen a big growth in the game of golf with the pandemic. And I wonder, especially with your target being the more casual golfers, or maybe golfers that went away from the game are coming back. Have you seen even more exponential growth during the pandemic?
Insane. And the most unexpected thing I could ever imagine. So like when COVID first hit in March, I remember having a discussion with Chris, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, we've got some big orders. So that's like our big time year where we have all of our biggest orders getting ready. I'm like, should we cut orders? Like, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And we went a little conservative, and that was the biggest mistake we made, because we sold out 10 times last year. So based on last year, we tripled down, and now we're up like 150% over last year, which was a great year. And it's really just like, almost can't keep up type of volume. And we've been like in the background, like, hey, we sell direct consumer golf brand. We've been here for a long time. So, I got into golf when golf was trending down. You know what I mean? When golf wasn't hot and sexy. So, and that's how I think any business, you shouldn't do it because it's hot or trending, because it's too late. So we've been well positioned, and never could have expected COVID, which is a terrible thing, to be a great thing for golf. And it's like, I know even at my course, the club I'm at, I'm now booking tee times a week or two in advance. Whereas before, I could walk out on a Monday, Tuesday, and just tee up. So I know people it's good for golf. It's good for us. It's not good for the world, so that's been a tough thing for me. It's like, I want to celebrate, we're killing it. but it's like the world's suffering. So I think we're coming out of it. But it's also e-commerce in general, fast forwarded 20 years, or 10 years, because traditional retail, they're like, hey, I really want to go hit that club first. It's like, well, if you want new clubs, you buy them online. So that too, it's like we're 100% online and we're golf. So we have a lot of tailwinds right now, and our only struggles have been like getting, and I went huge on inventory. It's just like shipping products. Containers have been hard to get. Freight's been slow. So other operational, logistical, not to get into that boring stuff, but challenges. But we're well positioned, and I took kind of, I wouldn't say a big risk. But I invested in hundreds and thousands of clubs just for this year, because we knew it was going to be big. And right now we're up to 2.2 times our normal volume, or 1.2.
So your cost of shipping stuff.
What's that?
Is your cost of shipping or do you vary who you use for a shipper, or who do you use?
Well, it's pretty complicated logistics wise. We have container loads where we ship 20,000 clubs at a time, 40-foot containers, which those prices are through the roof. They're like 3x, and then shipping to customers is up too. So this is all stuff that is just part of the game, So we charge a small fee for shipping, but it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I'm just happy this year we got enough product as we go into season. So everything's going great right now. I'm just riding the wave, and good time for golf.
Is your market all U.S. or is it North America? I mean,
yeah,
I feel bad for the Canadians because they're still holding them back, and that's crazy.
No, that is tough. I have a couple contractors that I work with. Let me sign out this as we're talking, that are from Canada, and they can't golf. And I'm like, oh my God,
that's stupid.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I feel bad for them, but yeah, we're mostly U.S. We do ship overseas. Australia's kind of was a growing one for us. UK, Japan. So we're worldwide. There is somewhat prohibitive to ship international, but we you pay what it is, and if you want it, you'll get it. We were going to open up an Australia fulfillment center and have an Australian site. It just, as a small business owner, it would be like running two companies, and I personally just didn't want to take on that challenge yet. But that would help buffer a U.S. off season with an Australian in season. But we haven't executed that yet.
Yeah. Well, that would be, you'd almost have to at some point meet somebody that you really enjoyed and really had comfort in before you could, open that office, because that's, halfway around the world. And you're right, that even though you got the internet and everything, that would be a tough one.
Well, I'm curious, Sully. It seems like you're real busy now, just getting product in, getting it out. You got the putter, you got the drivers, you got the irons, you got the e-commerce business. But what's next, man? 5-10 years down the road, where do you see this BombTech company going, or is there anything else stewing in your brain that you're developing?
Yeah, I mean, we're just like, I try not to get too distracted, because I definitely have entrepreneurial ADHD, but the e-commerce, the marketing agency business was not like a total curveball. So like, to give a little more context, I try to be aware of opportunities, but not get distracted from core things that are working. And so like, when I started getting press and doing podcasts and just people talk about BombTech, they would message me. They'd be like, hey, can you help my brand? And I was like, no, good luck. And then, after this happened for a while, where people just kept messaging me, they saw me on Inc. magazine or some e-commerce specific blog, and I was like, I don't know how I can help you. It's too complicated. And then my first employee ever at BombTech, Chris, who's like the most hardworking individual on the planet, my first employee ever. I mean, he would work 80 hours a week on his own regard, because he just loved it. So it's just like, I want to support him no matter what he wanted. And he was running all my email at BombTech, and still does, and our like text messaging. And he's like, hey, do you mind if I try to help these people that are messaging you?
Wow.
Like, dude, I don't, if you want to try to help them, you're running all over email. I support you 100%. I go, you go out, you close them on a deal, and tell me what the results are, and then report back to me. He did that for a month, and he doubled their revenue for every client in a month. I said, okay, that's pretty good. I go, what do you want to do? He goes, well, I'd like to do more of that. I said, okay, well, let's do more of that. So we made a transition plan and we became partners. And essentially that's the same flow we have. I help at a high level. I'm like his coach or mentor with building the business, getting people for him. He does the day-to-day stuff there. And now that business does, 7 figures a year. And that's our 3rd year. So now that's scaling up and we're got like 36 clients. We work with similar brands like BombTech. They're doing 2 to 30 million a year. And we just run all their email marketing. And now our goal is to scale that to 170 clients in the next 2 years. And then BombTech, we're just scaling. So both companies right now, it's like just make them more efficient and just scaling up to, high 8 figures. That's kind of the plan. And I'm playing a lot of golf, so that's good. I got 3 rounds in this week. So
this is Chris Pettit, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Was he your first original partner, or does he go to UV too, or?
Yeah, so he went to UVM. He's younger than I am, and he actually was, to even go farther back, he was an engineering student on one of the projects for BombTech, and he reached out. BombTech was really young. It was like, hey man, if you need any help with anything, I'll do whatever you want. And he at first was in college and helping me answer emails at night, like when it was real early startup days. So I mean, he was my first employee. Like, I mean, we've been working together now, 6 years. So now he's fully running the other company. He does run the BombTech email, but yeah, so he's like 27 and now he's making a lot more money than I would ever pay him at BombTech. So it's kind of crazy. But so like the long tangent of like what I'm going to do, it's like I try not to seek out things that are not already in my silo of activities. It's like it just seemed like a no-brainer. People are already asking for help. Like we got a very specific niche service that we can fulfill on and show results. And we have like 9 employees there, just scaling it up. And, but my goal is to really golf, ski, and fish more and hang out with the kids. And
that's great, man.
And I've done that pretty well to a point where my wife is like, you need to give us some space. You're around here too much. So I think that's a good sign, that.
Well, you can take that and work on the flatfish lure or start a fly fishing. There
we go.
A fly fishing division.
Yeah,
or something like that.
A spinner reel guy, a lot of live bait, but so like that would be fun. But right now it's like,
I know.
Doing what we do, and if something like really seems appealing, we'll give it a run. We got the team, so it's not out of the question.
Well, Sully, I appreciate your self-deprecating style, but the reality is, man, you've built a hell of a business. You've groomed another entrepreneur younger than you. You got a lot to be proud of. Tell everybody where they can go out to BombTech and get the clubs and any deals you got going on and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone golfs, BombTechGolf.com. If anyone owns an e-com brand, ecomgrowers.com. If they want to talk to me direct. LinkedIn at Tyler Sullivan, been pretty active there. And if I can help out, I will. I'm not that smart anymore. I've hired people smarter than myself. And, that was a big learning too. But
how many employees have you got now?
Well, this is a beautiful thing with the e-com brand. I have 2. And that's the beauty of selling physical product. I don't need more people to scale. And I think at first, that was not the case. It took me 2 kids to figure that out, that you don't need more people to do it. I just needed experts in certain areas. So I've got, outsourced, Chris does my email, outsourced ad guy, CRO guy, all different siloed agencies that I've vetted and experts. And the only guys I have in-house are our customer service guys. And their only job is to wow anyone that buys a golf club. And we go golfing once a month, and they do a great job, but everyone's remote. And, we went remote before remote was a thing with COVID, which is nice, but I think that's one of the grand illusions with some businesses. Like, we don't need a lot of people, which is kind of nice. The agency, we've got 9 people, and we do less revenue because it's a service. You know, we have to fulfill, and physically someone has to make those emails, write the copy, build them. So it's very interesting running those two businesses, because ecom, I could scale to 100,000 a day. It doesn't change my day, right? Whereas the agency, you know, if we want to sign on 5 new clients, we need another person. You know what I mean? So it's a very different model, but that business is interesting because it's all cash flow. You know what I mean? There's no inventory outside the people, which is like our inventory. But like with golf clubs, it's like you have a great year. It's like, all right, crushed it. Well, guess what? I gotta go order $5 million of golf clubs.
Right.
You know, so it's very different. Both have their things, so it's kind of cool to have both. And you know,
what about all these things where everybody pushes all these that we all watch, that they push on YouTube, and I mean, like I've seen your ads on Instagram and Facebook, like you said, but you know, the guy's out there with the next greatest thing, and you know, he's out there in Rancho Mirage showing you how to hit a whatever. Do you do any of that, or is that worth the expense or the time?
Oh, like selling golf lessons or membership or something?
Yeah, not really. Well, I mean, no, they're demonstrating the clubs, but yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah, like having an influencer, like a brand ambassador, and like hooking them up with clubs type of thing, and having them go out.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do like more traditional stuff where I do demo days, you know, go shoot video, but you know,
it's
it
time
became, yeah, I mean, I would go to my local courses, spend a day there, sell 2 clubs.
Yeah.
It's like, what time is it now? We already sold 100 clubs and it's 9:40. I did nothing. I'm not talking to you guys. So I mean, I think that's the hardest thing for people to understand, and myself included, because I used to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, shipping the clubs, doing all the shit you're not supposed to do. But it took me literally 2 kids to figure out, I don't need to be doing this. And that was my big separator for me. Like, because when I had my first kid, I was working all the time. When I had my second kid, I took 6 weeks off and sales went up. I said, okay, I'm not that useful. And that really allowed me to separate. I still work. Like, my brain's never off, but I'm not in the computer day to day doing the repetitive tasks.
Yep.
So that's a separate. I do higher lever, bigger opportunity stuff that, you know, I may have one good win a quarter. But it took 2 kids to really figure out. And I think everyone needs their own epiphany to say, okay, if you want to, and it took me years to become an owner where I'm not a day-to-day operator in the weeds. And that's at least allowed me to free up and now have 2 companies where I'm owner, not operator. And I don't know, I think that's a personal thing, you know, and some days I'm like, shit, these other small companies are in it, working more. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Because it's like now I don't do as much. So I'm like, I'm not as useful. But I think there's magic to that, you know, if you can figure it out. But again, you have to have the success, which took a long time and effort, to even have an opportunity to separate yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, I congratulate you on the company. I told Bill, I forgot, I usually start out with a shout out, and my shout out was going to be to Eli Callaway, because if you go back, you know, obviously I'm a lot older than both of you two, and he was the brilliance of this whole idea of taking one club, the Big Bertha, and making it, teaching us that $300 for a golf club. I mean, you know, it used to be you got the whole set 14 for $400.
Yeah.
And he convinced us to pay $300 for one club, and you go, that's crazy. And then we were all buying it. We couldn't buy enough of them, you know.
There you go.
And so he made me think of you. I thought, well, that's exactly right, you know.
We're still a microcosm in the universe, you know what I mean? And I'm just thankful for the internet and the opportunity that my accidental entrepreneurship, you know, and that first sale came through, you know. And I think the other thing too is like, do what you love, because if I didn't enjoy golf, there's no way I would have worked as hard as I did and for as long as I did and been as stubborn as I was. You know, because it's like it turns into work, you know, because it took a long time to go from selling 1 club to 2 clubs a day to 3 clubs to 100 to 2, you know what I mean? So I think that's any business, no matter what you do in life. It's like you got to enjoy it, or it's going to feel like work. So if it ever turns to feeling of work, I'm just going to be done. You know, so I
You
think
need to go. You need to go back to the long drive. What were you doing? Caving in the heads?
no, I was breaking the shafts because he was putting too much epoxy in the heads, which would actually go make it a shear point at the club head, and I couldn't. So I just figured out this is just again a natural evolution of like frustration. Like, what do you mean a break? And I was at the regional, and again, I didn't do well, but I was at regionals, and I had my favorite setup, whatever, I can't remember what it was, and I broke it 2 minutes before I was about to hit my time. And I was like, oh God. So I had to hit my backup driver, which I hated, but it was like one of my last backups, so I broke them all. And I said, listen, if I'm ever gonna do this again, I gotta just build my own. So and again, it's not like rocket science, but I just, by going through that process as my being curious and out of necessity, I just learned what it took. And I should have learned to let go a lot earlier, but I assembled, I mean, how many thousands of drivers myself in my basement. I had a duplex and I renovated the basement to be a club building shop with a newborn upstairs. I don't recommend doing that. Got chop saws going. I got epoxy. I'm sure that was healthy for me and the family.
Yeah, for breathing.
Yeah, I had the smallest room in the place doing the epoxy, and I would have them all lined up, and but I didn't think anyone could assemble them the way I could, which is, it's a control thing. So to go from being over controlling, learning how to do everything, to freeing yourself took a while, but you got to have those moments where you do everything yourself. So can I build a golf club now? I don't even know. It's been a while, but you got to start somewhere,
Well, here, I'll give you guys a quote, and then we'll probably let Sully go. And we appreciate your time and being here.
Sure.
Unless you got some more questions, Bill. But I have, this is a quote from Callaway. You guys will like this because it fits Sully perfectly. By the way, I already told you I was going to wear green, but I couldn't make it work with that green screen thing.
All good, all good.
Okay, so here's what he said. What is good in life is good in business. Treat everybody right and tell the truth. No matter what you do your best and don't give up. Just try, and then try again. Is that not your story?
That is very, very similar,
Yeah.
Again, I think that's the hardest part. Keep trying when you have shit go sideways, because it's not easy. You know what I mean? And it's always something, but I don't know. I think, and that's one thing too, last thing I'll say is like, I don't preach people to become entrepreneurs, because it's really not for everyone, and I think a lot of my success was luck and timing of the market. E-com was starting to become a thing. Facebook was starting to become a thing. I just happened to do it at the right time, had a cool story, had a great product, but I don't recommend people like, hey, go start your own thing unless you really just love it, because it's going to turn into work and it's going to be hard as hell,
Well, we enjoyed having you. Hey, by the way, if you're ever down we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you're ever down here, we'll take you out and play at that place behind us where Rory just won again.
I'll bring some extra golf balls then.
Yeah.
No, you're okay. There's not as much water. I don't know. TV makes those last 3 holes look miserable, and they are, but whatever. I mean, misery is next week at that place in South Carolina. I told Bill, you need to bring 3 dozen balls. It's got wind, water, sand. And if you want to watch it, bring a helicopter or a television set, because you can't get there from Charleston. It's a crazy place. Keel.
Yeah, I'm enjoying golf again. That was a big thing for me, because it turned into work for a long time, and it would always turn into work on the course. So now I just some golfing. So that was like full circle. I'm like, all right, I'm back golfing again, enjoying it. Because at one point there was an inflection point where I was like, man, I don't like it anymore, because it turned into work, So now I'm coming back.
My little tip for you is, because I'm doing this as my 3rd generation career, is that with what you're doing, being able to take a little time and coach, mentor over at the university or whatever, entrepreneurial, you'll have fun, because you can they'll soak it up like a sponge, and you're a fountain of information for a young person, like your partner. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of like probably my next phase if everything goes well. It's like,
well, you're a young man. You're young.
I'm still young, yeah, but man, I'm feeling old, you know. Someday.
Yeah, well, the kids will do it to you. Get ready. As soon as you
right.
get more and more athletic stuff going, you'll be on your get on your horse and ride.
Yeah, we
Well,
got
you got any more
T-ball
questions?
tonight.
You got any more questions for Sully?
That was great talking to Sully. Hell of a story. We're rooting for BombTech, man.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you, guys.
I'll go put on my green and I'll promote. And oh, by the way, everybody, just before we sign off here, remember you can see us. We're on YouTube. We're on all of the. We'll be on Spotify. You know, we're on all the listening sites if you're listening to the podcast online. And be sure to go to BombTech online, buy their clubs, great products, fun to use. I think you heard from Sully, you'll enjoy it. And I'm going to look forward to buying one myself because that's what I do.
There we go. Well, you just gave away your 500 clubs. We got to reach.
I know. I got it. Well, it was crazy. You can't believe. See, I'm 70. I was going back and pulling club. I have kept every club I ever get. I was like Arnold Palmer, only I don't have his warehouse. So I have the putters I didn't give away. Can't give away a putter because you might always use it. But you know, I went back. I mean, it's like I was pulling these kind of things out, you know. I'm not telling you where that happened, but I don't even know what club that is. Like, but it's fun. You go back and look at a power built driver or something. They're so pretty. And you look at them and go, how the hell did we hit those things? But that's what it is. Well, guys, I'll let you go. Enjoyed it. Have a great weekend. Sully, go do some fishing and some golfing and take care of those two babies. And Bill, look forward to seeing you the next time I see you. And everybody have a good week.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sully.
Bye. Thanks, Billy.
That was fun.
Yep.